This film takes you on a devastatingly brutal journey through a tank soldier's experiences of the last days of World War II. It is dark, gritty, emotional, and overall, very well made in many ways. Hello, and welcome back to Film Friday, in which I review a new film every single week. This week we are looking at the 2014 film entitled Fury, starring Brad Pitt and directed by David Ayer. Let's get into it. The film opens with 4 tank members working to make their way back to the rest of the army after coming under heavy fire. The body of the 5th member of their tank crew lies dead inside the tank alongside them. Once they make it back, they are assigned a replacement for that 5th member, their assistant tank driver. The replacement, named Norman, is a brand new recruit to the army and was originally training to be a typist clerk. And Norman is sickened by the idea of violence, in sharp contrast to the rest of the battle-hardened crew who are all extremely jaded. Over the course of the first half of the film, Norman struggles to stick to his morals and remain an idealist. But as the enemy kills those around and in front of him, and as he himself comes under heavy anti-tank fire while trapped in a small metal box, he too learns to hate the Nazi forces against him. And the film really focused in on the personal level of soldiers who didn't care about lofty ideals, but just wanted to survive. They feared and hated the enemy that was trying to kill them and had already killed their friends. In many ways, Fury was a case study of what war does to a man. We start with this fresh recruit who just joined the army 6 or 8 weeks ago. He has a strict moral code and he is determined to stick to it. But by the end, he has become almost as jaded as his fellow crew members were, due to the unrelenting brutality that he experiences in such a brief amount of time. And in some ways, this reminded me of the film 1917, due largely to the brief amount of time in which the events of the film unfolded. It seems to be a common, yet compelling, way to present a down-to-earth look at individual soldiers in a war, providing a snapshot of their experience without giving them an extensive backstory. There was also no high-handed monologuing, and none of these characters felt terribly one-dimensional. Well, for the most part. I did think that Trini Garcia, played by Michael Pena, was the least interesting member of the crew. And, in fairness, Shia LaBeouf's character, Boyd Swan, slowly and solemnly shed a single tear from his right eye on several different occasions. It was somewhat moving the first time it happened, but then it just became distracting after that. But the interactions between the members of the crew did feel like they could have really taken place, and the film overall was fairly realistic. For the most part. This particular criticism requires temporarily delving into a bit of a spoiler, but I thought the final portion of the film, the final battle, as cool as it was the most unrealistic part of the film. I always struggled to believe that 5 men can really hold out against an entire squadron of the enemy, but in fairness they were in an armored metal tank. Brad Pitt and Logan Lerman delivered excellent acting performances. I don't think I've ever seen Logan Lerman in a film before this, but I was quite impressed. Brad Pitt was solid, as per usual. Coincidentally, I've actually found myself watching a number of Brad Pitt films recently. We'll see if that trend continues. And ironically, I started out really disliking Brad Pitt's character. I found him to be unnecessarily hard on Norman, but the scene towards the middle of the film, which took place in the town, completely changed my mind on him. As a bit of an interesting side note about that scene, one of the 2 cousins that Don and Norman encounter in the town, Irma, struck me as vaguely familiar. It turns out she is played by Anna Maria Marinsa, if I'm pronouncing that name correctly. A year before appearing in Fury, she starred in Europa Report, a very well-made indie film which I reviewed about a year ago. And I think I'd also seen her in an episode of the TV show Wallander, starring Kenneth Branagh. And I never liked the other crew member, Grady Travis, who's played by John Bernthal, who, coincidentally, is in another film that I reviewed last week, The Odyssey. But that character, Grady, very much came across as an immoral man who was using the savagery and brutality of war as an excuse for him to indulge in his own cruelty. From a technical perspective, I thought everything in Fury was quite well done. The cinematography really placed the viewer inside the cramped space of a tank cab. The sound design provided what you need for a war movie. Unfortunately, I did find the score of this film to be by no means bad, but somewhat forgettable. And there were some interesting facts I found out about the production of Fury. Firstly, the filmmakers were able to use a real Tiger 131 tank in the film, which is significant because such a tank had not appeared in a film since 1950. And secondly, according to an article in Express, The director David Ayer really put his crew through the ringer in the production of this film. He forced the main characters to go into the woods and spar with one another, even to the point of drawing blood. And he also forced them to live together inside the tank for an extended period of time. So, was this a very well-made war movie? Absolutely. The best? No, but very good. Would I recommend watching it? Yes, but with a warning that it is by no means an uplifting film, so come prepared. With that being said, thank you for watching, and be sure to comment your own thoughts on this film below, and don't forget to subscribe for more movie commentary and reviews.